Awesome. Well, it's great to be here. As Vince said, my name's Colby Hall. I'm originally from Somerset, currently live in Floyd County after boomeranging back to the region from Atlanta, Georgia. So excited to be here with you today to talk a little bit about SOAR's vision for broadband connectivity and what we do with it. I'm about a year on the job, so I think back about a year ago, as I was preparing my slides for the presentation, I tried to put myself in the audience shoes a little bit about what I wish I would have known a year ago about broadband and connectivity. And we may have some experts out there, but I'll kind of start off with this, and I don't think it's hyperbole. It's life or death for our region in eastern Kentucky, but I would say for all parts of rural America, which would include western Kentucky as well. And so before I hop in my slides, I had a couple of points to make here just about the history of rural connectivity and why it is so hard. Rural connectivity is a market failure, and what that means is private markets cannot and will not fill that gap on their own. They just won't do it. They won't get the necessary ROI that's there. And so it's a perfect example of where government should and historically has came in to be a partner to make that market failure sustainable for companies to come in and provide that essential service. So two big questions that I think are always or should be asked about the digital divide and rural connectivity are this. Approximately $6 billion a year the federal government spends on rural broadband subsidies. Where are they going? And why, as rural broadband funding and subsidies increase, is the digital divide increasing as well? One would hypothesize that if that money's being put to good use, that the digital divide would close. But what we're seeing right now is that it's actually getting worse, or has been getting worse, right, leading up to the pandemic. And so I think a couple of quick thoughts there that it's a gap is there's a lack of dedicated coordination and robust federal policy and financial support that's hamstringing efforts in rural parts of the country. And really, if you take it back to the creation of the REA from the Rural Electrification Act in the 30s and 40s, it's one of the best examples of government success. It started in less than a decade, from 1945 to 1954. The percentage of farms that were electrified grew from 48% to 93%, right? And so I would argue that as this debate furthers, we need some sort of equivalent to the REA for broadband for rural areas to really start to see some movement on that. And so I'll hop in my slides here. I just want to give a quick kind of policy background for rural broadband because it's important to kind of understand. Everybody knows how important it is now, but without that background and understanding how to move the needle, it's just not enough anymore to say that we need it and it's important. We've got to start thinking about how we connect homes that are unconnected or underconnected. And so just to give a quick rundown, just so you guys understand kind of what SOAR is, this is what we're seeking to help solve. I wouldn't come out here and say that we want to be responsible for solving every problem in this diverse set of counties, but we've got 54 that we represent across the Appalachian Regional Commission, their definition of Appalachia, Kentucky. There's 54 counties. It's quite a territory, right? Actually, we're not in ARC defined Appalachia right now, but if you go one county over to Edmondson, we would be, right? What's interesting, though, is Kentucky, of our 54 counties, 93% have at least one distressed area. And across all 420 counties in Appalachia, Kentucky has about 50% of the overall distressed counties. And you can see on the left side how they define distressed, which it comes down to median family income and a poverty rate. So all that to say, it's the challenge is large, right? We have some work to do. So when I think about how you unite our 54 counties around common problems, right? These were some that we focus on, but I don't know if you can see, I bolded two that Rusty talked about a little bit at the beginning that I think is public enemy number one, and it's population loss, sustained population loss, and aging demographics. We've got to find a way to reverse that in the eastern part of the state. There's no other way around it. That's the bottom line. If we can't find a way to do that, economic revival will not happen. I don't care if you're an innovation-driven entrepreneur, an SME. Without people, nothing can be sustained. Hospitals can't be sustained. Schools can't be sustained. Businesses can't be sustained. Listen, the internet's going to facilitate a lot and businesses that can have access to markets that's not just driven by what's regionally there, but without people, nothing works, right? Which is why the internet is so important, because I think Jeff had to head out early from EKSEP. I would say SOAR's number one accomplishment is working with EKSEP, or one of the best accomplishments that SOAR has, and this predated my time, is the partnership with the Eastern Kentucky Concentrated Employment Program and putting over 4,000 people to work remotely in the region since 2015, right? But it's a natural evolution that we're looking at, and with the internet, the elephant hunting that Dr. Davis mentioned this morning, it gives us another lever to pull as a region. Elephant hunting is hard. It's a hard economic development strategy to pull off in Eastern Kentucky because a lot of the things that work against us. But with connectivity, high skill, high paying remote work opportunities give us something that a lot of other regions don't have. And we already have a great foundation laid for it. So just to give you some idea, I would argue that this revolution that started a positive result of this pandemic, I would say it's just getting going. And there's data that's being generated and data that's being tracked. But here's a couple ones that stuck out to me. So I make the argument that despite some of the really bad things of COVID's going to be a great win. I think somebody mentioned from the recession coming out and the uneven playing field. This reshuffled the deck in a lot of ways that nothing else would have, and in a way that's good for rural areas. So about 36 million people of the total U.S. labor force are going to be working remotely by the end of 2025. So that's an 87% increase compared to pre-pandemic levels, right? And why I think it's just getting started is look at what talent is demanding. There's a reason that the Salesforces of the world, the Facebooks of the world, PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big four accounting firms, just came out. They're all going to some sort of hybrid or fully remote option, because if they're not, their most talented people are leaving. More people right now are leaving their jobs than ever before for those companies because they're demanding the flexibility that they had when they were working remotely. They got back in touch, they spent more time with their families, they found getting outside and having a higher quality of life was something they were undervaluing. That's not going away, right? And that's a win for our region if we can prepare for it. Again, it's life or death, and I think it's important to understand in the broadband game, they talk about the triple A's of broadband: access, affordability, and adaptability. You know, what some people don't know is in Eastern Kentucky, we've got at least 6 counties that the access piece is done. Mayor Les is back there. Floyd County, I would argue, is one of those 6 counties. Obviously, Jackson and Owsley. We've got fiber to home in at least 6 Eastern Kentucky counties. It's hard, some are split. But there's 6 where that job's done. But access is still a big problem in other counties, and that's physically getting fiber or functional internet of some sorts to homes and businesses that are unserved or underserved. That's a big piece of it. Affordability. There's some people in Eastern Kentucky that have access to quality internet but can't afford it because it's expensive, right? There's some different things we've been doing on the subsidies and reforming some other things to help people pay for it. But if you have it, you've got to be able to afford it. For low-income individuals, that's a real big challenge. And then the last phase of it is adaptability, right? Which is, when you have it, are we leveraging it properly? Do we know how to use digital tools? You've heard some of that conversation today. So we talk about AAA. So the last point I'll make, I think this is the last slide here. There's more money being allocated than ever before to help bridge that digital divide, connect counties and communities that aren't. But here's the thing. There could be 100 gajillion, quadrillion dollars out there for it. But if counties and communities don't have a plan, it's meaningless, because there's so much work that has to get done up front to be ready for how to use the money if it comes to you. So when I'm talking with county judges and with mayors, it's taken me a year to kind of get my feet wet and understand how to advise. But I kind of boiled it down to kind of 6 things. We've got a map, meaning we have to understand where it is in our counties and where it's not. An anecdote isn't good enough. You've got to have data of some type to show where it is and where it isn't. Identify where those unconnected and underconnected areas are. Then quantify. If you've got 5 slivers in a county that's severely unconnected and they're your top 5 priorities, what's it going to cost to connect them? Once you quantify it, then you can partner, right, with your ISPs that are in your community, with other people that are trying to do it to figure out how to pay for it. Then you can apply for federal grant opportunities. Then you're ready to submit those applications. And then it becomes a construction game, right? And then it becomes actually building the networks out themselves. To me, that's a good kind of 6-step simplified roadmap for the access piece. But then the work doesn't stop, right? And you've got to think about how you continue to get the information out for your citizens, to think about how they pay for it. And then the digital literacy that's becoming more and more important for how to leverage it, right? But it's at the top of SOAR's list of things to help on in Eastern Kentucky because it had the critical nature of it. And so that's kind of what the vision is as we look into next year and beyond, and as long as I'm at the helm.